am damaged. I am damaged by what you have done to me. If I ever believed that you deserved to be dead, I would at least had the balls to kill you myself.
Imagine walking through your front door after a long day at work, expecting nothing more than quiet and routine. But instead of peace, you find a stranger waiting in the shadows, a man holding a hammer, his mission to kill you. And behind this attack, the person you trusted most, the one who vowed to love you forever. Tonight, we're diving into the story of Susan Kuhnhausen, the nurse who survived an assassination attempt in her own living room, uncovered her husband's shocking betrayal, and fought back in a way no one could have expected. This is not fiction. This is true crime, and it will leave you questioning who you can really trust. She was just an ordinary woman, a nurse, someone who dedicated her life to saving others. Her name was Susan Kuhnhausen. She lived in Portland, Oregon, and like so many people, she dreamed of love, stability, and a happy marriage. In the late 1980s, Susan was in her 30s when she answered a personal ad in a local newspaper. That's how she met Michael Kuhnhausen. He was quiet, reserved, and seemed grateful that someone kind like Susan would give him a chance. Their first dates were simple: coffee, conversation, and long walks. For Susan, who had spent so much of her life caring for patients, Michael seemed like someone she could finally care for outside of the hospital. They got married. At first, Susan hoped their life together would bring joy and comfort. But as the years went on, things began to shift. Michael grew distant. He was often bitter, smoked heavily, and battled with depression. He resented Susan's independence, her energy, her way of shining in the world. What began as small arguments turned into a constant undercurrent of unhappiness. Susan tried to make it work. For years, she stayed, hoping things might improve. But after nearly 17 years of marriage, she realized she couldn't live that way anymore. She filed for divorce in 2006. For Susan, it was a step toward freedom. For Michael, it was something else entirely. Because Michael wasn't just sad or heartbroken, he was furious. And in that anger, he made a decision that would forever change both of their lives. He decided Susan had to die. Michael knew a man named Edward Dalton Haffey. Haffey had a long criminal history and a reputation for violence. He was a drifter, someone you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. Michael promised him cash to carry out the job. The instructions were simple: break into Susan's house, wait for her to come home, and make sure she never walked out alive. September 6th, 2006. It was an ordinary Wednesday. Susan finished her shift at the hospital and drove home. She expected nothing more than a quiet evening in her modest Portland house. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, and instantly, something felt wrong. The house was too still, too quiet. Before she could even process the feeling, Haffey appeared. He lunged at her with a hammer raised in his hand. The stranger's face twisted with rage as he attacked. A hammer was his only weapon, and he swung it with lethal intent. Susan, terrified, realized in that split second she was fighting for her life. She had prepared for moments like this. Years before, she had taken self-defense courses, training that now became her lifeline. The first blows landed hard. The hammer struck her, pain searing through her body. But Susan was not the kind of woman to give up. She had seen death up close in the emergency room. She had watched patients fight for every last breath, and now it was her turn. She grabbed at the hammer, clawed at his arms, and screamed. The two of them crashed into furniture, slamming into walls. She kicked, she punched, she used every ounce of strength she had. Somehow in the chaos, Susan wrestled the hammer away. But Haffey wasn't finished. He lunged at her again. In desperation, Susan locked her arm around his neck and squeezed with every bit of force her body could muster. He thrashed violently. She held on tighter. Seconds stretched into eternity. Her mind raced. If I let go, I'd die.
I could see out of the corner of my eye as I turned my head that he was about to hit me again with the hammer in my head, and I grabbed him by the pant leg. I pulled him to the floor, and in the space of a 36-inch hallway, we continued to struggle for the weapon. I began to search in his pockets for clues, a key, an ID, anything.
You were searching in his pockets while you're wrestling with him?
Yes.
Wow.
And when I felt that I was exhausted, I pushed him. It came to me suddenly I needed to give up the struggle for the weapon and that I needed to become the weapon. So I pushed him flat to the floor.
You needed to give up the struggle for the weapon and become the weapon.
Correct.
Wow.
Finally, the struggling stopped. Haffey went limp. The man who had come to kill her was now dead on her living room floor. Susan collapsed, shaking, gasping for air, her hands trembling. She had survived, but she had also done something unimaginable. She had killed a man with her bare hands. When police arrived, they found Susan battered but alive. Her home a chaotic scene of overturned furniture and blood. Haffey was quickly identified, and in his belongings, investigators discovered chilling proof that the attack had been orchestrated by none other than Michael Kuhnhausen, Susan's own husband. Detectives unraveled the story piece by piece. Haffey wasn't just some random intruder. He had been hired by Susan's own husband, the man she once loved, the man who couldn't stand the thought of her living without him. Michael was arrested. The evidence was clear. Haffey had been paid to carry out the attack, and it was Michael Kuhnhausen's anger, jealousy, and obsession over the divorce that had driven him to plot his wife's murder. In 2008, he pled guilty to soliciting Susan's murder. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison because the plot crossed state lines. He never got the chance to hurt her again. 2014, Michael Kuhnhausen died while still incarcerated in federal custody. For Susan, the scars of that night never truly healed. In interviews, she spoke about the nightmares, the trauma of taking a life, and the betrayal of realizing her husband wanted her dead. But she also spoke about survival, about the strength that rose inside her when it mattered most. She once said, "I survived because I refused to die." And maybe that is what makes her story so extraordinary. Not just the brutality of the attack or the shocking betrayal by her husband, but the fact that Susan fought back. Against all odds, she lived.
It gets easier the farther away you get away from trauma. It was more difficult as Mike was drawing close to parole. I'm sad that our marriage didn't work. I'm sad that he died in prison so far away from any of us who ever loved him. But I am rich in all the things that count, and I celebrate every one of my bonus days. In fact, every one of my bonus breaths. What I do know is each year when that date comes, I celebrate in my heart that I was brave enough to take a chance on my own life.
So what do you think? Was it instinct? Was it fate? Or was it the unbreakable will of a woman who refused to become a victim? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story gripped you the way it gripped me, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another true crime case. This was the story of Susan Kuhnhausen, the nurse who killed her hitman. Until next time, Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.